Are you tired of undercharging, over-delivering, and overworking? Well, I have some good news for you. I put together a free course for women web designers who want to make more money without overworking. Just go to webdesigneracademy.com/free course or click on the link in the show notes of this episode to get instant access. And since you love podcasts, when you sign up, you'll have the option to get the entire free course instantly in a podcast feed so that you can listen on the go. So if it feels like you've been working 24/7 but not making as much as you want, go get that free course right now at webdesigneracademy.com/free course. Welcome to The Profitable Web Designer, a podcast for web designers who want to work less and make more money. I'm your host, Shannon Mattern, founder of the Web Designer Academy, where we've helped hundreds of web designers stop undercharging, overworking, and create profitable, sustainable web design businesses. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Profitable Web Designer podcast. Today, I am joined by Nadine Nethery, who is an audience-driven copywriter and customer experience strategist for savvy online business owners like all of you listening and your customers who want to intentionally attract, retain, and wow their dream customers. So Nadine, I'm so excited to have you on the show and talk more about what you do and what it means to be a customer experience strategist. So welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me, Shannon. So good to connect.
Yeah. So can you give me a little bit of your backstory? I'd love to know your journey to becoming a customer experience strategist and a conversion-focused copywriter.
Yeah, absolutely. So I, like so many copywriters, stumbled into copywriting. Many of us never set out to be a copywriter. I didn't even know copywriting was a thing. So I look back on almost 20 years, shows my age, in the corporate marketing and PR world. So did PR for a global car company for ages, traveled the world with automotive media to motor shows, lived the fancy life, 5-star hotels, wining and dining journalists, and really finding unique angles to present our product as the one that's so much better than everyone else's. Ultimately, I decided to have kids like so many of us women do, and that didn't fit the bigger picture of said corporate. So I was made redundant with a 3-month-old baby after 10 years in the business, and it totally shattered my world, sent me into an identity crisis, doubting myself. Is it me? Am I good enough? And the hormones didn't help, obviously, at the time. But, looking back, that was probably the best thing that could have happened for me. And at the time, I decided that I wanted to have a bigger impact beyond being a number in the corporate system. And I really started thinking about how I could apply my marketing skills, my corporate comm skills to, small businesses and have a bigger impact that way. So really didn't work out what that could look like straight away, had to pay some bills, went back into full-time employment, and by chance stumbled across content marketing. So took a course while working full-time, having 2 kids at the time. And part of that course was a module on copywriting. And that's when it clicked. I went, oh my God, I can actually use my writing skills, my communication skills, and get paid for it. So really started taking on clients as a side hustle. And it very quickly became a matter of being too booked for my liking. I also felt pregnant with number 3. So it came to that pivotal point in my life, really, where I went on mat leave with my 3rd one, kept working on the side to go, this is really the chance to see whether this is feasible, this can work. And 8 years later, I'm still here. I'm still writing copy for my clients, but I also have added and branched off into customer experience strategy, which is my absolute passion. So really looking at the copy as one component of the bigger picture, because copywriting is important. obviously, that's what gets people to convert. But the before and after the purchase is just as important, because people buy when the conditions are right, when the time is right, when the messaging's right, when they have the right mindset to feel like they're supported to make that purchase. And yeah, so nowadays I help people with the copy and the before and after to really make it a smooth customer experience and customer journey that organically guides people to that decision to invest.
I have so many questions because there were so many just juicy tidbits and interesting things in there that I want to dive into. And I love just being in this format where I have the opportunity to just go down all those little rabbit holes with someone and get really curious. And so you mentioned that you quickly got booked out and got too many clients once everything kind of clicked for you and you're like, oh, this is kind of where all of my experience like really comes together. I would love to know, and I'm sure all of our listeners would love to know, like, how did you get those first clients? Like, what were the
Yeah.
action steps that you took in those early days to make that happen?
So luckily, a friend of mine has like one of Australia's largest baby expos, and she found out I was getting started and got me on board to take care of their social media copy, their blog posts, liaising with clients who had bought sponsorship packages, and as part of that had blogging. And the good thing about that job or that gig was that I got direct contact with all these vendors who clearly needed help with their copy. So I started with one client who still books me nowadays, which is mind blowing 8 years later. But yes, I started working with her. She told her friends about me, and it really quickly spiraled out of control that way, which is really a nice luxury. Obviously, I was doing something right and people were resonating with what I had to offer. But yeah, I feel like word of mouth is great, but a lot of business owners get a bit complacent with relying on word of mouth. So yeah, I quickly had to work out that I need to show up, market, find other avenues to get in new clients as well.
I love word of mouth. And I think it's like a underutilized tool in our toolbox, especially as web designers, right? Because the people listening to this podcast are like, well, I build websites that are supposed to get found. And so I think that I should also build a site for myself that gets me found. And they don't broaden themselves to other avenues of getting clients. And you said that like your friend found out. I'm curious, like, did you tell her? Was it like in passing? Was it like just a side conversation? Like, how did this friend like find out that you were doing this?
Yeah, it was a conversation where, like so many women, I was like, I'm doing this little thing on the side, this little business. And yeah, she's always been a big thinker, a big dreamer. And so she said, you have to come and work with us. Like, we'll get you in there, we'll get you started. And I'm so grateful to this day still. And it just shows that you have to mention what you do. You have to talk about yourself. It's not bragging. It's just putting yourself out there and standing up for your genius and what you can add to the world.
Yeah, I totally relate to that, where I actually kept my little tiny side project a secret from a lot of the people in my life because I wasn't confident. I felt like a fraud calling myself a web designer, even though that's what I was getting paid to do at my day job. It just wasn't my title.
Mm.
And I worried that if my corporate job found out somehow that they would fire me before I was ready. And so it felt so risky to just tell
Mm.
someone, like, yeah, I do web design on the side. And the first time I did, my whole body flushed hot. My face turned red. I felt like I had just lied to this poor woman. But the first time I said it, she's like, oh, I need a web designer. Do you do WordPress? And I was like, yeah, I know that like the back of my hand. And like, that's kind of when I realized like, oh, if I want clients, I can't keep what I do a secret.
Mm. And I think it's a female thing as well. Like women just like to play small. I don't know, like
For
we don't want to
sure.
inconvenience people. We don't want to come across as showy. And as you said, there are so many people around us who are running businesses as well. So what I found out, for example, in our school community is that, you know, where we are based, I'm based on the rural outskirts of Sydney. So nature of that location is that a lot of families run their own businesses. And so there are so many women in the school community who run their own businesses who are clearly too busy to do all the things in their small business. So, you know, if you don't communicate what you do, you're missing out on so many opportunities in your immediate circle as well.
Yeah. I mean, one of the first things that we do on like all of our like coaching calls or things inside of our programs is we share wins. And it is like pulling teeth to get women to say, hey, I did this awesome thing and I'm really proud of myself. It takes a lot of practice for them to
Mm,
feel like they're not bragging or feel like their accomplishments don't take away from anybody else in there. And so, yeah, I'm glad we're talking about this because I think it is a thing. And it's important to find like people who are supportive and who do want to lift you up. And if you have an experience where someone wasn't supportive, those aren't your people. But that doesn't mean that there aren't people out there like that. So I
mm,
just, yeah,
absolutely. And it takes practice, right? As you
it
said,
does.
it doesn't come natural and it doesn't get easier, I find. You just have to push through the discomfort and
Well, yeah, because you
just,
reached out
yeah,
to me
own
and
it.
said, hey, I'd love to be a guest on your podcast. And
Mm,
I reach out to people who have podcasts and I say the same thing. And my hands still sweat, even though I've been doing this. I've had a podcast since at least 2018. And I still reach out for opportunities. I still do that. And I still feel like I don't know, being pushy or taking too much or something every time. But the reality is, like, your outreach to me that was like so personal to like, hey, here's how I think I can serve your audience is like a gift to me because we get to have a great conversation and I don't have to like go find, I have a schedule that I publish weekly and you're dropping awesome content that serves my audience right into my lap. So outreach is a gift to your clients, everyone. And
yeah.
so I encourage you to do it. And I love that you like are still putting yourself out there in different ways
Mm.
because there's so much noise on social media. Like a personalized note to me will get my attention way more than anything else that people are doing. So
Yeah. And opportunities usually don't come chasing you. They do sometimes, but most of the opportunities I have created for myself came from proactive outreach and putting myself out there as an option for business owners just like you. So, and you know, you
so
get
good.
no's, but from every no, you know, you can learn something, you can learn what to do better. And no doesn't necessarily mean never, which I've learned as well. So you are on the radar, you've put yourself out there, and next time then looking for someone like you, it might just as well be your name in the mix.
So good. So it's so interesting that you were talking about like customer journey and like the before and the after, and that people buy when the conditions are right. We just got back from a retreat with our next level mastermind students. And I personally was reflecting on an unintentional customer journey that I had created
Hmm.
in 2022, 2023, because I had a mismanaged mind about some experiences I had had, like enrolling students in my program. And you know how like we have a bad client experience and then we're like, well, I need to change this, and this to prevent that from ever happening again. And so I was
Mm-hmm.
reflecting on it. I was like, I made like the American Ninja Warrior obstacle course to like as a customer journey for my students or for my customers so that if they made it through this big, long obstacle course, then we could consider maybe possibly working together. And I was like laughing about it because I'm like, upon reflection, it was like so self-protective to put that many obstacles up from hearing about us to joining our program. And I see that now in hindsight. But, and so of course, like in 2023 and 2024, we really worked on not making it an obstacle course and making it like a really nice path with lots of stepping stones where you can take your time and move at your own pace and be nudged forward as appropriate and just give you the space to explore your way there instead of, I don't know, pulling you forward before you're ready or also throwing up like some kind of crazy obstacle course for you to get there. So it's just so funny that you mentioned that because I was coming off of that experience, like reflecting on the unintentional customer journeys that we create when we don't realize, when we don't have an intentional customer journey. So I say, I don't know where I want that conversation to go, but I'm super curious on your thoughts about that.
Yeah, I find, especially nowadays, 2024, with the economy, all the things happening around us, I truly believe that there simply isn't a linear customer journey anymore. You know, like the funnel where we go, okay, they need 7 emails here to go into this step and then 5 emails here, and then they're going to be ready to buy. It simply doesn't happen that way anymore. There are so many touch points, so many channels people can interact with you on. And ultimately, what I think we need to realize is that we can't control the customer's journey. Like they are going to come in at any angle, they're going to take any path. What we can do with strategic marketing, though, is we can influence their journey. And what I firmly believe is that really tapping into paying close attention to their behavior and the signals they're sending you can really streamline that whole customer journey. And it then doesn't feel like this forced funnel that people go through, because we're all savvy nowadays. If you're in the online business world, you know exactly what they're doing to you. They're priming you, they're dropping the offer, then there's a webinar. So everyone knows what's happening. So I really don't buy into all this anymore. And really feel like we need to start with the audience. So you need to have a really, really clear understanding of what makes them tick, what are their problems, their struggles. So really diving deep into the mindset and then combining that with taking the signals via email marketing that they're sending, you know, clicks, what they're engaging with, and using that to really create a totally bespoke customer journey. And the good thing is you can automate most of that. And that means you're not selling all the time. You don't feel like you're this car salesman that pushes everything down their throat. It's just organic and it gives them what they need to hear when they need to hear it in the right format. And it takes a little bit of setting up, a little bit of getting to know the process, but the effort you put in at the beginning, setting up this journey really is going to pay off for you in the long run, because it just primes your audience and delivers them the offer when they're ready.
Okay, all of this is fascinating. And so from the perspective of like when you start to work with a new client who has come to you and has said like, listen, I understand that this traditional funnel model that we've all been using, everyone's saying like, funnels don't work, or this isn't converting, or nobody wants this. And they're making a lot of assumptions based on the results that they're getting with the funnels that worked back in who knows when. And they're just trying to like reuse the same funnel and just put more traffic in it. And it's getting diminishing and diminishing returns. They come to you and they're like, help, where do you start with a client?
It's funny you're saying that, because a lot of clients come to me with exactly this problem where they had this successful program, successful course that used to convert really well. They had this evergreen funnel And conversion rates really have just dropped considerably. And often the problem is that they haven't evolved the funnel and the offer and the messaging with what is going on in the world, because, pandemics, like mindset shift, people also appreciate different format types, for example. So private podcasts are really popular. It really is a reflection of, your offer, your funnel is never set in concrete. So what we do as a starting point is an in-depth audience survey. So I'm pretty geeky, love the data. So we totally set up this very strategic audience survey to help us identify different mindset patterns based on their experience with whatever my client is selling. That will then help us identify messaging gaps. So how can we get them from this mindset to the next? And it gives us incredible direct insights into what is going on in their lives right now. What are they, obsessed with right now? What keeps them up at night? And this particular survey and the results that we're getting is the starting point for everything. So it underpins the messaging for the sales copy. It also often becomes the starting point for a bespoke customer experience. So I've used it to shape a quiz funnel, for example, where we then could really tailor that messaging to each of the profiles that we identified. It has resulted in a choose your own adventure type sales funnel as well. So you can have a lot of fun with it. And again, the end goal of all this research is that your messaging is going to be super sticky and people are going to read it and go, oh my God, is she reading my mind? And the whole experience is smooth. So before the purchase, you are dropping all the nuggets they need to hear to be ready to actually, check out your sales page. So you've done all the heavy lifting before they come to the point of purchase. And then very important as well. So you need to continue that support and that care factor after the purchase as well. So you can't just go, you know what, you bought, great, I've got your money, let's just leave you on to your own devices. So really taking those insights to create an amazing onboarding journey as well, to give them little nudges to get the most out of the experience.
Okay, web designers, let's talk about the C word, creative burnout. You're working on a site for a really big client, but between resourcing, feedback, tight budgets, and even tighter deadlines, it doesn't make the cut. Wix Studio helps close that gap so you can deliver your vision with less friction. Built for agencies and enterprises, you get total creative control over every last pixel. With no-code animations, AI-powered tools, reusable design assets, advanced intuitive layout tools, and a Figma to Wix Studio integration, you can design the way you want to and deliver when you need to. And if you're worried about that learning curve eating into time you don't have, don't be. Wix Studio is intuitive by design, so your entire team can hit the ground running. For your next project, check out wixstudio.com. That's wixstudio.com. So, our web designers who are listening to this and are hearing from clients that are coming to them and saying, hey, I need help. I think I need to rebrand. I think I need a redesign. What I was doing isn't converting like it used to. And they want to partner with someone to just reinvent. Do you collaborate with designers on building these customer journeys together? How do you actually implement what you have planned out and come up with?
Yeah, so I don't directly collaborate with web designers. So I often, set people up with the strategies so they have access to all the audience data that we collect so they can tap into it whenever they need to create content. And then what I create based on that is semi-wireframed copy. So basically they can hand it off to the web designer and the web designer can picture how it sits on the page, where to add the images. So it really makes life easy for web designers as well. And the feedback I've received is they really appreciate not just having walls of text and having to work out how it should sit there. So yeah, really having a copywriter who understands how the reader needs to be guided on the page to get the message.
Oh yeah. It's definitely a gift for those designers who are not copywriters, who have the responsibility be on the client to bring their copy or partner with copywriters to collaborate and create, to really have that laid out for them in a really strategic way so that they can put their flourish and their touch and make it really like stand out. So yeah, I'm just thinking of all of the listeners who are like, wait, I want this for my clients. Like, and I would love for someone else to do this, to do this work for me.
Yeah,
That
it definitely
collaborating
helps.
with someone like you would bring a ton of value to their client projects.
Absolutely. And often even from a rebrand perspective, all this work, the research that we're doing can help graphic designers as well, for example, in really understanding, the visuals, the color palette that people need to really be spoken to on a deeper level.
Yeah. So what are some of your favorite examples of like client customer experience transformations? Like what was happening before and what changes did you make? And then what started happening?
Yeah. So I love, honestly, clients who come to me with a totally open mind where they go, you're the expert, you know what you're doing. So I trust your expertise. They usually end up being the most successful and most rewarding projects. So I recently worked with someone on their virtual summit. So she has been doing summits for years, really successful. So she definitely, had the format down pat, but we went deep. So we actually started with an audience survey to give it an edge, to really get to know the attendees that we're going to speak to. So not only would that help our copy and the sales page convert, but she could also then use that to pitch the right speakers, select the right topics, and really create an agenda that was not only filling seats, but giving people quick wins and prime them for her offer that she was launching off the back of that. And as part of that survey, I very quickly worked out that there was 3 very distinct personas, audience attendee personas, and they had very distinct belief systems when it came to that particular product that she was selling. So I discussed with her creating a choose your own adventure type of summit, something that wasn't out there. It created more work for her, obviously creating custom tripwire pages for the All Access Pass. Really, every attendee, based on the quiz they took at the beginning of the summit, was then put into their own little experience for the summit. So they had bespoke agendas that they were sent every day. They had suggestions around speakers to check out, the presentations that would get them the most value. And the result was amazing. Like the feedback from attendees was so good because they felt like it wasn't wasting their time. They had the guidance, they got actual wins from the summit, and it's definitely going to mean that they're going to attend her next event because they had such a good experience and they're primed to buy from her. Even if they didn't convert after this summit, the experience she created as part of this free event is just a signal and a reflection of what they can expect inside her paid offers. So sometimes I feel, customer experience, it seems like this fluffy extra that people don't really understand and they don't really value sometimes as an investment. But customer loyalty and people talking about your brand because it's just this remarkable experience that you created is worth so much, because these people are doing not only the selling for you, but they're going to be buying into anything you have to offer because they are just so fascinated with the experience, with the value, and with the journey you create for them. So really paying attention to how you can support your customers rather than just taking their money is going to guarantee continued business success, long-term growth, and make your marketing so much easier.
I am fascinated by how you segmented, for lack of a better word, on based on belief systems. Can you share more about maybe some different examples of belief systems and how you would customize a journey based on a different belief system?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's take web designers, for example. So you can really, for example, take people who believe, it's not worth the investment, right? Why should I spend thousands on a website when I can DIY? There's, all these nice templates that Squarespace and Show It have for you, the free ones. So you can really speak to that and bust those beliefs, the false beliefs that it's not that hard to build a website. So really address that and prime them to shift the mindset. You can have people who go, I like the idea of outsourcing, but I'm going to get a template for now. So you can speak to that. For example, if you as a web designer sell templates, you can totally lean in on that and say, templates are great for a certain stage in your business. If you're just starting out and you're not quite sure whether this is where you want to go all in on templates, and then you can really present them with your collection of templates. And people who are ready to outsource but have an issue with the price tag, again, you can use case studies in this instance, for example, to show how much the investment someone made in your services has paid off for them. So let your customers do the selling for you rather than you having to do the convincing. So it's really flipping the coin. So starting with your audience and seeing what they need to hear rather than starting with your sales agenda and going, I need to sell 3 VIP days, however that might look like. So it's starting with your audience, working out what they're lacking to be ready to invest, what their best path forward is, because not everyone is primed and ready to invest thousands and is going to get the best outcomes from working with you. So you want to avoid disappointment. And it's really putting yourself into your customer shoes. I know it sounds easy, but again, having conversations with past customers, with people who reached out, but for some reason didn't end up investing in your brand, asking them what stood between them and investing, apart from the price tag. So having intentional conversations and really taking note and learning from those, and then seeing how you can incorporate that in your marketing, in your sales calls as well. How can you really be upfront about those objections and address them on the call rather than hiding from them? So it's, investing time to really be conscious and, put your customer at the center of everything you do, every decision, every email you send, every strategy that you implement.
Here's what I love so much about everything that you just said is, one, you're not making anybody wrong for how they think from this perspective. You're saying like, hey, there are 3 different belief systems here, or however many you might uncover. All of these are valid. I can understand why each one of these would think the way that they think. Here's what they're really afraid of. Here's what's underneath. I, as the expert, know some things that they don't know. So I can educate them on those things. Maybe that will shift them. Maybe it won't. That's okay. But I'm not making any of them wrong. And so what I always hear from web designers when we're talking about like finding clients, right? We talk about here at the Web Designer Academy, we call them pricing paradigms. We've noticed that there are typically 3 different pricing paradigms. You basically described them to a T when you talked about those belief systems. We have investment-minded clients who see their website as like a revenue generating asset for them, and they see the opportunity cost of them spending their own time on doing this. So they're like, not only do I see that it's going to cost me in the future if I try to do this myself, I also see that this is a revenue generating asset for me. So if I hire the right person and I pay for this, not only I'm going to like generate even more revenue because I'm not spending my time on it, and I'm working with the expert to like create this thing. So I'm going to create even more than I could if I just built this thing myself. Then we have like the hybrid minded client, which is the person who's like, yeah, I see that this is a revenue generating asset. I'm not quite ready to take the risk of like going all in. I'm willing to spend some of my time. I understand there's a cost to that, but let's go. Let's build this asset. And then there's an expense minded client who's like, I think of this as money gone forever. I'd rather spend my time. I don't really think about more money being on the way. I just think of like money gone. That's unsafe. Let me do this as easily as possible. And so the mistake that a lot of people who come to work with us or listen to this podcast make is they say, well, how can I just find and work with investment minded clients? I don't want to talk to anybody else. I don't want to even talk to those expense minded clients. I don't want to deal with hybrid minded clients. I just want to skip over all of that. And only I want to find the magical room where all the investment minded clients are hanging out and only speak to them. And everyone else needs to like have the special knock and the secret code and whatever to even be able to talk to me. And so my philosophy, I think, is very similar to what you're saying, is that I'm going to talk to everyone and nobody's wrong. And I may or may not have an offer for everyone, but we teach our students to have a sustainable offer for everyone in that category. And just by nature of their experience with how well I treat them and how I acknowledge them and I value them and I don't dismiss their real feelings, they have the potential to grow into that investment minded client with me. I'm going to take their hand wherever they are and lead them on the journey to knowing the things that they don't know. If I really truly believe that your website's a revenue generating asset for your business, and if you let me handle it for you, you can make many, many, many times more than if you do it all yourself or you try to do half of it yourself, then I'm going to talk about that, but I'm also going to let them make their own decision at the end of the day.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
that's how we think about it here.
I totally agree. And, what's wrong with having those aspirational people in your audience who are simply not ready to invest yet, but they love what you do. They love the websites you put out there. They join your mailing list. If you're not speaking to them or you're not giving them a platform to be part of that greater conversation, those aspirational people are going to get elsewhere. They're going to unsubscribe and go, oh my God, like the judgment, I can't deal. So really inviting them to follow along until they're ready is going to be such a smart move. You're just going to nurture them. They're going to keep following along. You're going to share the amazing websites you're designing for people. And whenever they are ready, they're going to be coming to you because you gave them platform, you invited them into their space before they were ready. And it's worth so much taking people along for the ride.
I love that. And you also, like you said, you weren't judging them for not being ready yet. If I think back to like my customer journey in 2022, like late 2022, early 2023, I can't say that I wasn't coming with that energy of like, this is the best thing ever. Why wouldn't you do this? Like, I know I can help you. Just come on, just like jump way across these two steps that are actually way too far apart for you to feel safe and jump. But I'm like, come on, just trust me, just jump. And they're like, but no, I'd love it if you put a few more steps in and stop telling me to jump so fast. Like I'm not ready, you know?
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
I feel like it's an opportunity as well to look at your offer suite as well. So obviously one-on-one work, if you are a service provider, it's going to pay your bills and that's where you want to have the bulk of your income for now. But how can you serve those people who potentially, even want a quick strategy session with you, for example, to have a look at their DIY template work, to give them a few tips how they can optimize it, what they can tweak to make it better? Or, could you have a membership for people who are DIYing their website to support them with accountability sessions? So yeah, it just gives you another opportunity to serve those people until they are ready to outsource. So I have a membership, for example, the Copy Confidence Collective, and that is like specifically designed for people who love what I do. They simply don't have the funds to book me at the moment, or they're not quite ready. They're in that space where they would love to, but they're not quite ready. And it's perfectly designed to prime them to be ready. So I give them my thoughts, my feedback, critiques on their copy, on their DIY copy. And they also get a discount on my VIP days. So once they're inside, they get a taste for, my strategic thinking, the ideas that I can deliver. And a lot of them go on to book copy days with me down the track because they just realize how valuable it is to have someone write the copy for them, because it's something that I can do a lot quicker and a lot better and more strategically for them. So there is a space for those people on your email list, and you just need to find a way to support them until they're ready to take that big step.
I love that too, from the perspective of kind of circling back to our conversation about marketing. When you have something that's like a stepping stone on your journey, that's like a give, where you get to reach out to someone and say, hey, I have this thing to offer you that's going to add value to you and your audience. Would you like this as like the first stepping stone? Kind of like you and I on this podcast, you reach out and said, hey, I have some value to give to your audience. Would you like this? And I'm like, yes, please. And that's like the first step in a journey to then like inviting them to learn more about the next step and the next step and the next step. And it makes marketing so much easier when you're marketing like a gift instead of like, and not to say that you shouldn't market yourself. I totally think that we should, but our clients aren't really buying us. They're buying the results and the outcomes that we help them create, which is one of the reasons why we get so weird about selling ourselves and all of that. But I just think it's really fantastic when you can have that smaller step, whatever that is, so that you can do outreach from a place of generosity. And then it makes it feel so less awkward to start that relationship with someone who you're like, I'm okay to like let this unfold over however long it needs to take, instead of like, well, unless they become a client like right away, I don't like, it didn't work or whatever.
Yeah. And absolutely. And again, that's where segmentation comes in too. So if you go about it strategically and again, pay attention to the signals that your audience, that your subscribers are sending you, you can even let them decide when they receive the offer. So let's say, you can send them an email about your templates. If someone clicks on the link to check out the templates, you can then funnel them into a mini pitch sequence, because clearly if you're there to outsource, you wouldn't click the template link. So really use their behavior as a signal to send them follow-up content and go, here is what XYZ this customer made with my templates. So really give them little nudges and little reassurances that this might just be the solution for them. And again, putting your subscriber behind the steering wheel of their customer journey just takes the pressure off, and it's automated, and you don't feel like you're pushing the sale, and your email system is doing it for you.
So good. So just a couple more questions before we wrap up. First one is, what are some first steps that our listeners can take to start implementing this type of customer experience in their own web design businesses?
Yeah, so really start with having those intentional conversations with your clients, those people who inquired who didn't end up booking you for whatever reason, and try to implement a strategic question in your onboarding surveys and in your offboarding surveys that really tap into that mindset. What made them book you? What made you different? What were they struggling with at the time? And then also those quick wins, the mindset shifts. So that means you're getting fresh insights and fresh audience intel on autopilot. You can also send a survey, as I said. It needs to be strategic with open-ended questions, so you really get that juicy language, those amazing statements you can use in your copy. and then take the time to have a look through it and pick up patterns. And often that survey is really where the penny drops, where you go, oh my God, like these are my types of customers. That's what each of them needs to hear. And that's when you can then sit down and map out the individual journeys. So, which case studies can I present customer A with to see what's possible with my templates? What can I tell customer B who's ready to invest big dollars in my business? Which case studies work for them? And what results and what mindset shifts can I present them with? So it all starts with your customer. It sounds easy, but having intentional conversations. And I feel a lot of business owners, just because we've got so much on our plates, they skip the foundations. So this part, they go, I know my customer, I know them inside out, but actually going to the source and getting fresh insights, it's priceless, and it can really shape your copy, your marketing, your customer journey, as I said. So start with your audience, have a real close look at how they interact with your brand, how you can create amazing surprise and delight touch points even that take them off guard, and invite them to reply to those emails. There are so many opportunities. You just need to sometimes think outside of the box and go out there, and sometimes take risks as well. So don't just send the same emails as everyone else. You can experiment in your business. You can see what works, and if it didn't work, well, for next time. So have fun and really see how you can surprise and delight along the way.
That is so good. And two things came to my mind while you were saying that is, one, the world changes so fast, and what you thought you knew about your customers a year ago could be completely different today based on just what the world looks like today. So their motivations, their values, their life situation could be completely different as to what they thought in 2024 versus 2025. So just saying, oh, yeah, well, we've done that work 5 years ago. It's not going to, like, the world is a very different place today than it was even 5 years ago. So I think that that's something that I was thinking about when it's like, oh, yeah, we've done that survey work, but we did it 18 months ago. And the world is even a different place now than it was 18 months ago. And then the second thing that came to my mind is, like, we make so much of what our customers do and don't do about us, especially as like solopreneurs who are like building businesses. And it's like, oh, they didn't click on this, they must not want it, or I'm not good enough, or my branding needs change, or like all of these things. And when you follow the data and when you ask people and hear from their mouth why they did or didn't do what they chose to do, 9 times out of 10, it's going to have nothing to do with you and everything to do with them. And so you're not changing the wrong things because you're misappropriating what their intentions were and thinking that they mean something that they don't mean. And so you get to, again, not make it all about you, make it all about the customer, and you will have so much more like traction and success with that. So
Absolutely.
so good.
Yeah.
The last question that I ask everybody that comes on the show is, what belief about yourself did you have to change to get to where you are today?
Oh, good question. Probably that I can deliver so much to my clients' businesses. Like when I first started out as a copywriter, I was more an order taker, where they go, I need 3 emails in this funnel, and then I need the sales page. So I would give them what they wanted. Whereas I quickly worked out that actually what they want is not necessarily always what they need. So I really needed to embrace that I'm more a strategist. I can add so much more to my clients' businesses. And so nowadays I don't shy away from telling them that, sure, I'm not sure we should do it this way. Why don't we start it this way? And you're going to get much more out of it. So really believing in your strength and what you can deliver to customers, businesses, lives, etc. So embracing who you are, what your strengths are, and really applying them to your business. And to every client project rather than, I don't know, playing small and giving people what they want. So really not being afraid to say no sometimes as well when it doesn't feel aligned and you go, I could do this and I could take the money, but I know exactly that it's not going to get you the results. So yeah, leaning into your strength and sticking up for yourself. That's probably it.
So good. That is the perfect place to wrap up this episode. Can you tell everyone who is listening where they can go to connect with you, learn more about you, get in your world, get on your email list, all the things?
All the things. So if you want to connect with me, the best spot is probably Instagram at Can Do Content or my website, candocontent.com. I also currently am halfway through a free customer experience advent calendar. It's a private podcast with daily episodes that look at all aspects of the customer journey before, during, and after the purchase. And they give you little tips and tweaks for various things that are important. So really connecting on to this conversation that we just had. So that's free with the link that I'll provide Shannon with. Also, if you want to find out more about audience-driven, behavior-driven email marketing and how you can really put your subscribers behind the steering wheel of their customer journey, I also have a free mini training that you can have a look at. It takes you through some real examples from within my business that hopefully spark your ideas as well and your creativity and show you how easy it is to implement.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for being here. I will link up all of that in the show notes. And yeah, it was really fun talking to you and getting to learn more about this.
Thanks so much for having me, Shannon. Such a good chat.
This podcast is part of the Sound Advice FM network. Sound Advice FM, women's voices amplified.